Why is there a tendency by some politicians in Africa to reject the outcome of elections? What can be made of ECOWAS' timely intervention to resolve the Gambian leadership stalemate? Is Adama Barrow the best leader to help turn the fortunes of the Gambian people around? Is Barrow likely to reverse the Gambia's withdrawal from the International Criminal Court? What time is it? It's question time. Hello and welcome to the show. My name is Mpo Tsedu Khotong. Former President of the Gambia, Yahya Jammeh, has eventually succumbed to pressure from the economic community of West African states to accept the outcome of last year's elections and hand over power to the democratically elected Adama Barrow. Jammeh caused a stir last year when he reneged on respecting the election results after having initially promised to do so. West African leaders did not agree to grant Jammeh any immunity during negotiations to resolve the impasse, and this resulted in him fleeing into exile over the weekend. Due to safety concerns, Barrow was sworn in as the new president of the Gambia at the Gambian Embassy in Dakar, that is in Senegal, last week. Meanwhile, South Africa has commended the efforts made by the international community, spearheaded by ECOWAS and the African Union, with the United Nations support to find a peaceful resolution to the Gambian political crisis. We are live, and therefore you can call us and air your views. The numbers to dial 089-1104-210. If you're outside the borders, 0027891104210. Our Twitter handle at QuestionTime24. My guest is Faith Mabera. She's researcher at the Institute of Global Dialogue associated with the University of South Africa. And joining us on Skype is Jagan Gray Johnson from Open Society Foundation, Africa Regional Office. Let me welcome you. There seemed to be something very abnormal when Yahya says, okay, fine, I will go. People congratulated him. And I'm saying to myself, why are people congratulating this man for something that he was supposed to have done long ago?
Essentially, the vault fires that Jammeh put in place, you're not the only one who's surprised. I mean, in 1 week earlier, he's calling the elections almost rig-proof, undisputable. And then in the same breath, he goes on to say, I can't accept this elections. My only answer to that would be, it's unfortunate, like you're saying, that in Africa, what is required, the cornerstone of democracy in elections, something that should be a given, is applauded as almost a black swan event, and yet it should be the norm. But essentially, my only answer would be the trappings of strongman power politics in Africa must be very attractive for him to want to cling on to power so aggressively.
Do you think age has got something to do with this? Because, I mean, at 51, having served 4 terms, I mean, sorry, yeah. And this goes to the guy in Central Africa as well,
yes.
Who, I mean, he's also in his 50s, if he's not 50.
Forget Museveni.
Wow, Museveni is old, but I'm talking about even these younger guys who you would expect, they understand that, you know what, you serve your term and go. There's Kabila. What is wrong with African leaders? African
leaders seem to equate the presidency tantamount to there's the status and the prestige, obviously, that comes with taking leadership positions. But at the same time, it's a phenomenon that we are all trying to grapple with, the idea of letting go of power. Yet, as we all know, obviously, as presidents retire or leave their term, the status you still have it with you. You're wealthy beyond average standards. You're able able to sustain your networks. So it baffles everybody why this almost desire to cling on to power so tenaciously.
Jagan, let me bring you in here. Is it true that this man took with him at least $11 million in cash and some 13 luxurious vehicles?
There's been two contradictory statements. One is that President Jammeh had carted away equivalent of about 169 million rand equivalent. That appointment was, that announcement, was made by Mr. Maifati, who is a close aide and a spokesperson for him, staying with him in Dakar. However, that was contradicted by Mr. Halifa Sallah, the officially appointed spokesperson for the incoming administration, who said that there's absolutely no evidence to that claim because the IGP, Inspector General of Police, had assured him that this hadn't happened, which is suspect in my sense, because the IGP has been complicit in a lot of the abuses of rights, also abuses of state resources. But however, he has a point, because there's absolutely no evidence. No one saw him doing this, and there has to be a systematic forensic audit of the Gambia Central Bank to ascertain whether this indeed happened or not.
Well, that would be, in as far as the money is concerned, the vehicles. We saw some pictures.
Sorry, can you repeat that question again?
I'm saying the dispute is mainly regarding the money, the $11 million. But what about the vehicles?
Well, the vehicles, I think that there is some evidence that some vehicles were carted away in a Hercules airplane that was provided by one of his former peers, Idris Deby of Chad. That is a fact, is undisputable. Now, the problem with that is that in the greater scheme of things, do we really want to be focusing around a couple of Bentleys and a couple of Hummers leaving the country, or do we want to look at the bigger picture?
Well, if you are to look at the bigger picture, I'm sure even the little particles that make up the picture would also be important. Why is he being allowed to take out, the wealth which he amassed as a result of his position?
I think that has angered a lot of people. That is obvious, and I think he shouldn't be allowed to be taken anything at all. I even doubt that most people would have agreed that he should have been allowed to have left in the way and manner which he did, given the fact that he had breached two deadlines. One of them was very clear, that after the 19th, his status had changed. He's no longer president. He is actually a rebel, quote unquote. He certainly acted as one, because he held the country hostage for a better part of 48 to 72 hours. And out of that, I think it was quite amazing to watch one individual in his private capacity, not necessarily as President Jammeh, but as Yahya Jammeh, a Gambian citizen, who was holding a standoff with the regional economic community's force. Now, that's one side of the argument. The other side was that they wanted to make sure that no blood was spilt, and the actual departure was as less acrimonious as possible, to ensure that Jammeh simply just leaves, and they will deal with him, and at least the administration will be able to give him the opportunity to carry on with governing, so that they can live to fight another day.
Now, Brenda, do you think that this multinational bodies, whether it be AU or ECOWAS or whoever it is who agreed to this deal, sold out the people of Gambia? Because right now, Yahya Jammeh is not going to answer for all the questions that those who are aggrieved may have.
It's a case of the lesser evil in this case, because the political history of that region has seen numerous coups d'etats of various natures. So it's a case of weighing what would you prefer in terms of the ends and the means, what's more preferable in this case. But I think the intervention has shown that where there's a will, there's a way, so to speak. As to the question of whether they feel left out, the people had spoken clearly. so to speak, that we want change. But even more telling is the fact that if you look at this group of leaders who'd mounted this intervention and the deadline diplomacy, I mean, think about if you look at Ghana, if you look at Senegal, and now Buhari, these were former opposition leaders who'd ascended to power via constitutional means. So there's an increasing appetite for constitutionalism in that region, and I guess there's a decreasing appetite for this kind of acrobatics around holding on to power. So it's a case of, does the end justify the means?
Fiso, you are in Zerast.
Yes, Mpho, good afternoon. How are you, sir?
I'm well, thanks for the call.
Yes. You know what, Mpho, military intervention, removal of head of state is the only language African head of states they understand. And we are waiting for that kind of situation to happen in Zimbabwe, because we cannot allow those head of state to sit in power as they wish. So they must understand that the will of the people should be respected. And that's the only way we can deal with that kind of situation, military intervention. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Fiso. Jagan, the language in SADC is normally, and I mean, I would quote South Africa's position on many issues, the solution of the problems of the people of Zimbabwe lie with the people of Zimbabwe themselves. Do you think we could see some ECOWAS type of attitude creeping into SADC?
I think that's highly unlikely because it'll be difficult to actually we'll be misguided to make the same comparisons between SADC and ECOWAS. Their contextual histories are different. Their political experiences are different. If you take a look at ECOWAS, certainly the two countries that were the last countries to attain independence. In 1980, in the early 80s, that was the time that the first countries in Southern Africa the Southern Africa region were attaining independence. So there's a long history of also in Southern Africa of the frontline movements, the liberation movement struggle that really surpassed borders. The same individuals and the same players that have been at the thick of things, militarily, politically, diplomatically, are still in power today in the various countries, which is very different in ECOWAS. So in other words, what I'm saying is the issues of loyalty and the issues of affinity and the issues of the brotherhood and the fraternity that the leaders of SADC actually enjoy, given their past history and the memories that go back in fighting a different kind of a liberation struggle, makes it quite difficult for them to disentangle themselves and also be less emotional when they're actually approaching these regional problems that the region is faced with. Whereas in West Africa is a different story altogether. West Africa has had a better part of at least 45, 50 years of post-independence democracy. Some would say they've had their share of military coups, political instability, and the like. And it's taken a while for them to actually get together and ensure that the regional culture of democratization is firmly entrenched. And any threat that actually looks towards destabilizing this kind of a phenomenon is actually dealt with almost immediately. So you'll see that Yahya Jammeh, towards the end of his reign or towards the end of his term in power, was the actual oddball out. He was the only person within ECOWAS that really wasn't democratizing. He was the only person that was perpetrating serious abuses of human rights.
Okay,
and he was the only person.
Hold it there. Let me take John. John, you are in as a table view.
Yes, for good day.
Yes, welcome.
I think we have a big problem in Africa with our leaders here. Because if you see a situation which is happening there, we really cheer him for letting the power go, because it sounds like it's abnormal for a leader just to let it go, because what we don't see in African leaders, they've got their own interests. So they won't go without finishing their terms of office. They will even want to pursue more agendas then the problem with the African Union, it does not represent us because it's the same leaders who are representing us, so they represent their own interests. And we are in trouble with that. Seeing also the case in Zimbabwe, you will realize that South Africa doesn't talk too much about Mugabe, but you can see a lot of Zimbabweans coming forcefully to South Africa because of the conditions in their country, but they turn a blind eye when they see that as if things are normal. Thank you.
Thanks very much, John. We're going to take a quick break. When we return, I hold the view that Yahya Jammeh went to exile because the soldiers said we are no longer backing him. If they were, he wouldn't have gone. Your view only after the break. That's question time. We'll be taking your call 089-110-4210.
If you asked the British how they felt about being the biggest cider drinkers in the world, they'd say something like this. Yes. Well, we don't know about you, but that sounds like a challenge. Challenge accepted. Tops at Spa. Good cider, good advice, no stiff upper lip.
Welcome back. You are still watching Question Time, and you can call us, and you've used the numbers to dial 089-110-4210. My guest, Faith Mabera. She's a researcher at the Institute of Global Dialogue associated with the University of South Africa. And on Skype, we've got Jagan Gray Johnson. He's a representative from the South African Institute of International Affairs. So, what do you say to my view here, Faith? I maintain that Yahya wouldn't have gone if the soldiers had not said, we are no longer supporting this man.
You have a solid point there, Paul. But interestingly, they also did an about turn, because when he questioned the election results after the 1st of December, they were with him. The army general was there, and he's saying, we'll support you in your cause. So something happened. I think they saw the force of threat coming and sort of retreated and said, this is beyond our capacity, let us retreat.
But is this how Africa's issues should be resolved? Through the barrel of a gun? Should people be threatened to leave office first?
There's that aspect, yes. There's the issue of the military question around it, which is crucial, no doubt. But we have a very interesting constellation around the Jammeh issue. So number one, Jagan already mentioned, which is he was increasingly isolated in the region. He was seen as this unhinged madman. We'd better get rid of him. He's going to bring a dark stain on this rapidly democratizing region, so to speak, on one hand. But the other crucial factors you must remember is the fact that ECOWAS has the ability to match its deadline diplomacy with muscle, which is something that, for instance, the other regional arrangements don't have.
Okay, let's go to Taung, and is it Makubu?
Makubo.
Oh, Makubo. I'm sorry about that.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
I think, first of all, we need to congratulate those leaders who managed to convince this guy to leave. Because if you look at their approach, yes, many of us, we may say he was not supposed to be back to leave the country or to vacate the office. But their approach actually has avoided a conflict, because if you remember, even us in South Africa before 1994, we had to compromise, for us to reach this democracy to be where we are right now. So sometimes it's not because you have taken that decision just to please the guy. but you look at the bigger picture. The bigger picture is that they are saving people's lives. Because we know in Africa, when a guy is refusing to leave office, before he could leave office, many people will die. We have so many cases of that nature. But maybe lastly, the AU, I think it needs to have teeth to bite, because in my opinion, I don't understand why leaders will do as they wish in their country, whereas we have this organization. It needed to be given more power, so that when a president he begins to abuse his own people, somebody must intervene. They cannot just, sit there and do nothing. More steps need to be taken to stop this, because we cannot be known like this throughout the world. We have just seen last week how the Americans have dealt with their Democrats. I think we need to be able to copy such things. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Makuba. Let me bring in Jigan. Jigan, where is the president now? I'm talking about the legitimate leader.
Well, President Barrow is in Senegal, Dakar.
And when is he expected back into the country, and the security concerns around his safety?
Well, there is talk of some security concern, but I think all the evidence points to the fact that the incursion was successful without any incident. And by the way, if you just allow me to make a very brief comment on the issue that you had said that if Jammeh didn't have the backing of the Gambian military forces, he would have stepped down. In fact, Jammeh stepped down precisely because ECOWAS was coming in. If ECOWAS wasn't coming in, he probably would have stayed on. We have to realize that Jammeh's military forces are ill-equipped, they're ill-trained, they're not battle-tested, they're not combat-ready, so and they only have 1,000 men on the ground. ECOWAS deployed 7,000 men, so they were outnumbered, they were outgunned. So that's why Jammeh left. But then, again, because of that same precise reason, with that overwhelming force that swept into Gambian territory from Senegal, it's very clear that the security of the president is almost guaranteed. There's been no resistance, and I think at this point in time they're just making doubly sure to ensure that the security is at 100% before he comes in. But I don't think there should be anything to worry about or any doubts about his security now or moving forward.
Suleiman, you are in the Free State. Quickly.
Thank you very much, Mpo. I want to help to answer the question, why do these leaders stay in power for so long and they don't want to go?
Yes.
Number one, many of them come in through coups, through civil wars. They shed a lot of blood, and they continue to shed a lot of blood. For example, Museveni came in after a civil war, which took about 500,000 people dead. When he came to power, again there was a civil war in the north with Kony, which took another close 500,000. From there, he helped the intervention forces of Kagame into Rwanda, and they caused genocide. From there, his forces again entered DRC, a lot of bloodshed. He has stayed in power again by killing off many opponents, so he cannot think of going. So is Jammeh, he has also came in through blood. So is Kagame, so is Kabila, so are others. So many of them come in through blood, and they shed blood, so they cannot think of leaving. Number two, they come in when they are very poor. A person like Museveni had nothing, Kagame had nothing, Kabila had nothing, Jammeh had nothing. So now they are rich. Number three, we have a culture in Africa of adoring leaders. Some of it is traditional because we are used to kings. So we tend to adore these leaders so much that when he takes over power, people just adore him and they don't want to question him, whatever bad things he does.
Suleiman.
Number four.
No, we can't go to number four. I'm sorry. I would have to let you go. We've run out of time. But what awaits Adama Barrow in Senegal?
Number one,
or rather in Gambia. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm keen to see if he'll make good his promise of reinstating Gambia back to the ICC treaty. Most recent news is that he's appointed a woman as VP. essentially, which is, I think, is something that's quite telling. But we'll see. We'll see whether he'll make good this club of so-called rapidly democratizing states in ECOWAS, and whether he'll be able to match also their expectations in the region.
Okay, unfortunately we've run out of time. Jagan, I'm sorry we've run out of time there, but we need to wrap it up. That was question time for today. A big thank you from me and the rest of the crew. You have yourself a wonderful time. Ibe Khotso.